Hey guys, welcome back to the What About AI podcast. I'm Sean Boyce,
James Perkins.
and the episode topic today is all about financial services and banking companies and how far they are trying to push AI technology today in terms of what it is capable of.
It's a fun topic.
It is, yes, one we know near and dear. So, first, I'll share a little bit more about what Bank of New York Mellon has been doing. So, investing significantly in the workforce and the technology to the tune of $5 billion a year at the moment, in terms of the total for that spend. They have empowered what they're referring to as their builders. So, their workforce, 20,000 of them, they are challenging to kind of create their own agents for various use cases throughout the company and what they do. And they've also given upwards of 50,000 employees Gen AI training. So just trying to continue to push that envelope further and further. I'm curious what you've seen from some other companies in the industry.
Well, I mean, I was at JP Morgan Chase just 4 months ago, and they were doing the same thing. Lots of internal training, making sure folks are aware of AI. I know Goldman Sachs actively embedded Claude employees into their environment. They were working on accounting and account reconciliation, so like know your customer when you're onboarding a new client. A lot of that is routine. You're just evaluating information submitted by new businesses or new customers. So they've been actively, the banks themselves, bigger banks and financial companies have actively been pushing to adopt AI. And a lot of them have internal training teams and organizations built around it. Like the newest position I've heard of is the chief AI officer.
Yeah,
And there's all
the
types of
chow.
level, yeah, chow. But yeah, I've seen a lot of that in banking.
Yeah, well said. Also, in addition to that, I think a lot of what we're seeing in financial services now is regulation and compliance, which is an area where I've done work myself as well. Also, so anti-money laundering, AML, as they say, use cases as well. Also, so not just like company operations, but also compliance and regulation
Yeah.
too. So trying to basically find any use case for which they can leverage the technology to streamline operations and efficiency.
And that's a huge part of every bank. I mean, and every single
Definitely.
financial company out there has a regulatory team
Mhm.
that's focused and dedicated just on any potential regulatory concerns. And then oftentimes a separate compliance team.
Yep.
So it's both of those groups have to be concerned about disruption because of how much AI is getting involved now. It knows every single state specificity. It
Yep.
knows every federal law. It knows international law and how it applies to the. So a lot of considerations there for folks in those roles.
Definitely. Yeah, you used to go basically to the expert that knew this area or that area, right? Now that game has changed pretty significantly.
Big time.
Obviously, they are pushing pretty aggressively to kind of leverage the technology in any area they feel they may get value out of it. So probably means some pretty big changes coming in the industry, and that's kind of where I wanted to go next. So you teed it up well. But I wanted to speak specifically because obviously this content is very much for our audience about the career ladder and how that's changing. We've had other episodes where we talked about how the junior employee kind of mentorship intern elements, like all of that has been disrupted severely because a lot of companies are leveraging or looking to leverage AI and the technology to
Mhm.
essentially kind of replace a lot of that. So that has been reduced significantly, which makes it harder to kind of get into these organizations and grow up and learn from them, right? Junior developers becoming senior developers. We talked about that on the tech side. But at the same time, they're also looking to severely impact kind of the middle management layer. So a lot of that workforce that is managing all those projects and those teams, where a lot of that training, person to person was coming from as well too, is also changing. So that ladder is really starting to look more like something that's pretty flat. And I guess a good topic of conversation for this episode would be if it is changing so significantly and so quickly in these ways, for someone who's looking to kind of crack into the industry because they're junior or someone who is experienced and wants to find a different way to kind of work with the companies, despite the fact that all these changes are happening, if this train has left the station, basically, like, how do you get on it at that point? I don't know. What's your advice for someone who's wondering that?
Thank you for the very exciting, positive topic, Sean. um,
Just channeling my inner listener. The question I would have.
I don't think the train has left the station or the boat set a sail. I think the apprenticeship is kind of reversed. So whereas before, a new employee, a new graduate, someone that's early in their industry would connect with an elder in the field, someone that's more senior and experienced. I think now the senior individual is more reliant on that junior person to understand and learn AI, how to use it in their business practices. They have all the experience and skill and strategic understanding of the environment. They can pass that along to the younger employee or the more junior employee but the junior probably has more exposure to technology. I mean, if you look at how we were raised and how our kids are raised now,
Yep.
completely different. I mean, they're digital first. They're always on their phones, their devices. Even if you put time limits on, they're going to find them. And new grads coming out of school grew up that way right now. So I think that's where they have an in. Another angle is it's easier now than it ever was before to start your own company or build your own thing. So several of our clients have come to us and said, "Hey, I've had this idea I wanted to pursue for a while. I wanted to do it, but I was working full time, and now that I have this opportunity, I mean, it's really flipping being laid off or fired into an opportunity. I want to spin something up," and we've helped them do that. And it's difficult to have a one person company. Not so much anymore.
Yeah, it used to be a lot harder.
I mean, now if you establish a Claude work setup, a Claude co-work setup, or you have Claude bot enabled and you've trained it on what you want to do, you can really use that to prop yourself up and fill in the gaps you might have as an individual to build your own startup. That's another path. Why? Because I think all these big enterprises, big companies are going to start sort of a flood of acquisitions over the course of the next 2 or 3 years, just to stay away from IP violations, any risk there of using AI to build things. If they go out and buy companies that have already done it and just absorb it, the integration when you buy a company used to take 2, 3 years. It's complex. There were a lot of considerations about people, about the technology, about the infrastructure. Now with AI, if you buy IP or technology, you can adopt it and absorb it pretty quickly. So I
Yep.
think that's going to be part of it as well.
Yeah, I see that that was a common pattern back in the day, even to kind
Yep,
of for a lot of these larger companies who were bigger and slower and couldn't move fast. They almost leveraged acqui-hires as a form of research and development.
that's
So it's
right.
kind of like their department, and they would go to the open market, see who's designing and building cool things that they may be able to leverage, bring it in-house, which they get not just the tech, which is a solution to certain problems. They can incorporate it in existing products and services, but they get someone who obviously had some pretty significant skills to then do more of that from the inside. So I think that's a solid strategy, and it doesn't even need to be, you don't need to blow it up into a huge, impressive company that's making record revenues or anything like that. I think you can go pretty far with just demonstrating your capabilities, trying to leverage the technology to build almost anything. Common, I would say, something that's analogous to another industry that we're very familiar with, just tech in general,
Yep.
software development. GitHub profiles, which is, version control for software, just keeps track of everything that you're doing. But a big part of what tech companies used to look at as part of the interview process is they'd look at how active your GitHub profile was, basically like how often are you basically trying to build things yourself outside of just looking for employment. And it's kind of like a resume that's got some like work history on it, kind of, and they could look at it and see what projects you're working on and learn quite a bit about that. So the more I think you experiment with something like this, I think it starts to demonstrate to them that you've taken the initiative, and they can also evaluate, what your current skill set looks like and what you're capable of in terms of what they're looking for. And the more that looks like it's a bit of a match, then that kind of de-risks it for them and it makes you stand out. So yeah, I think that's a great advice for folks to follow.
I actually went to GitHub maybe a month ago, and I was looking at some of the people I used to follow's activity history.
Yeah.
Everyone had this magical productivity boost
Boost.
back in
Yeah.
like September. It just shot up and it just continues.
Can't imagine why. That helps skate me probably forever. So something else I was going to share here in terms of, you know, I think it's interesting to us who have been in the financial services and fintech industries for so long, decades between us, is that they're kind of leading the charge in a lot of the ways here across various industries from an adoption perspective and how far they're pushing the technology, which is going to mean, I think, bigger changes down the road, but certainly right now, a lot of activity going on. And then one of the questions might be, well, where is a lot of this coming from? Why is this such, especially affecting financial services, banking, things like that? Did a little bit more research on that. And one thing that I have a tendency to try to do often is follow the money to kind of see one of the reasons why is because that often tells you quite a bit more about the story or where things are coming from. So one of the stats I found that I thought was interesting and worth mentioning was that 97% of investors are currently penalizing firms that are failing to upskill their workers on AI.
Oh, I
I
believe
thought that
that.
was, I do too. And that's, I mean, 97, so that's basically 100%. That's pretty high. And not just, not prefer them, actively like penalizing them if they're not doing that. So that just kind of tells you about how real this is and how much value people can get out of it if they're really investing in it.
Yeah, and from a finance industry perspective, everything was fintech focused 10 years ago. It was all the new fintechs popping up. How do we
Yep.
keep up? If you're an old stodgy bank, which was the kind of like the presumption, all big banks
All
are
banks were that way.
stodgy.
Right.
Um, it was how do we keep up with this fintech world? And I feel like they jumped the shark a little bit because they couldn't. They tried that. They tried to like absorb fintechs. I saw several big banks make acquisitions in that regard,
Yep.
struggled with it. And I feel like they looked ahead a little bit and saw, look, AI is going to solve a lot of these problems.
Good point.
It's very, data driven. Big banks, most financial institutions have a ton of data. I mean, everything you could think about, customer data,
Yep.
transaction data, you name it. They
Yep.
have family profiles, right? You know how many people are in an individual's
Yep.
family, who they share their cards with, all these things. And going through all that data has been a challenge for years. Now with AI, I think they saw that they could use that to their advantage. And really, they've been pushing bleeding edge AI technology at all these big banks. And the ones that we've worked with so far, I mean, they are further ahead than many other mid-sized businesses you'd expect to be further down the path
Yep.
adopting AI.
Not so stodgy anymore,
Yeah, not so old and
huh?
stodgy.
Well said. No, I think that's well put. I think we pulled this topic apart pretty well. I mean, some exciting things coming down the road in financial services and banking, like you said, the fintech kind of revolution that went through the industry however many years ago seems to be really gaining steam now. So if it leveled off there a little bit, I don't think it's going to for much longer. Anything else that you wanted to add for this episode before we wrap up?
Well, we called out a few jobs that might be getting disrupted near term. If you feel like you're not ready for that, check out the website, whataboutai.com. Tons of free resources. We're trying to help everybody get through this. That's basically our mission.
Yeah, well said. And staying tuned is as easy as signing up for the newsletter. We're sending those out kind of daily-ish, is how we like to say them. So as we're getting this information, we're providing it to you as quickly as we can and as in as digestible a format as well, also, so it doesn't take you long to kind of stay up. Cool.
That's
Good.
all. Good to
Good.
go.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. We appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.